Yasodananda Prahladananda Yasodananda Prahladananda Yamuna Tira Vanacharya Yamuna Tira Vanacharya Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Balaba Girivanadari Gopi Jana Balaba Girivanadari Yasodananda Prahladananda Yasodananda Prahladananda Yamuna Tira Vanacharya Yamuna Tira Vanacharya Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari 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 Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Prabhakacharya Asadhara Sadushi Shiman His Divine Grace Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami Raj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Gaur Premanande Hariva Slava Zarani Bhakta Slava Shri Guru Shri Garangi Om Agyana Dvinandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chaksura Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavam Cha Shri Rupam Sagradatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Vrajana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Visakans Vitams Cha Hey Krishna Karna Sindho Dinabando Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Dakanshina Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Prishubhanu Sudadevi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakapa Dhruvyascha Kripa Sindhu Vyevacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Pranitinanda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 5, Narada's instructions on Srimad Bhagavatam, text number 3. Jigjasitam susampanam apite mohad abhutam kritavan varatam yastvam sarvatra paribrimhitam jigyasitam susampanam apite mohad adbhutam kritavan bharatam yastvam sarvarta paribrimhitam Jignasitam samubhanam apite moha adabhutam kritavan bhagavatam sarvata paribrimhitam. Ladies. Jignasitam samampanam apite mahad adbhutam kritavan bharatam yasvam sarvata paribrimhitam. Jignasitam, fully inquired. Susampanam, well versed. Api, in spite of. Te, your. Mahad adbhutam, great and wonderful. Kritavan, prepared. Bharatam, the Mahabharata. Yastvam, what you have done. Sarva Artha, including all sequences. Paribrimhitam, elaborately explained. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Your inquiries were full and your studies were also well fulfilled. And there is no doubt that you have prepared a great and wonderful work, the Mahabharata, which is full of all kinds of Vedic sequences, elaborately explained. Purport. The despondency of Vyasadeva was certainly not due to his lack of sufficient knowledge, because as a student he had fully acquired about the Vedic literatures, as a result of which the Mahabharata is compiled with full explanation of the Vedas. Text 4. You have fully delineated the subject of the impersonal Brahman, as well as knowledge derived therefrom. Why should you be despondent in spite of all this, thinking that you're undone, my dear Prabhu? Purport. The Vedanta Sutra, or Brahma Sutra, compiled by Srila Vyasadeva, is the full deliberation of the impersonal absolute feature, is accepted as the most exalted philosophical exposition in the world, covers the subject of eternity, and the methods are scholarly. So there cannot be any doubt about the transcendental scholarship of Vyasadeva, so why should he lament? Text 5. Sri Vyasadeva said, "All you have said about me is perfectly correct. Despite all this, I am not pacified. I therefore question you about the root cause of my dissatisfaction. If you are a man of unlimited knowledge, due to your being the offspring of one Brahma, who is self-born, without mundane father and mother. Purport: in the material world, everyone is engrossed with the idea of identifying the body or the mind with the self. As such, all knowledge disseminated in the material world is related either with the body or with the mind, and that is the root cause of all despondencies. This is not always detected, even though one may be the greatest erudite scholar in materialistic knowledge. It is good, therefore, to approach a personality like Narada to solve the root cause of all despondencies. Why Narada should be approached is explained below. My dear Lord, everything that is mysterious is unknown to you because you worship the Creator and Destroyer of the material world, the Maintainer of the spiritual world, the original personality of Godhead, who is transcendental to the three modes of material nature. Purport: a person who is 10% engaged in the service of the Lord is the emblem of all knowledge. Such a devotee of the Lord is in full perfection of devotional service. He is also perfect by the qualification of this personality of Godhead. As such, the eightfold perfections of mystic power, Ashtasiddhi, constitute very little of his godly opulence. A devotee like Narada can act wonderfully by his spiritual potencies, which every individual is trying to obtain. Sri Narada is a 10% perfect living being, although not equal to the personality of Godhead. And it goes on. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namane Namaste Saraswatunde Ve Gauravani Pacharane Nirvishesha Srinivadi Paskatyade Sadarne. The Vedas, Krishna says, Shruta Vipratapanate Yadasasati Nischalam Samadhavachala Buddhis Tata Yogam Avapsate. That the Vedas deal mainly with the three modes of material nature. Now, we ourselves, being in the material nature, it's good to know about the material nature, but not in the way the mundane scholars or the mundane people think. We should know the material nature in such a way as we can get out of the complexities of material nature. The first stage of that is to find out that we're in complexity. Most people think the only thing they're lacking is more money for more sense gratification. They don't think it's perplexing. They have a very clear understanding of what their aim of life is: get more money and enjoy the senses. And when they meet a Hare Krišna, they think this person's trying to bring in doubt into my life. He's trying to stop my spontaneous desires for unlimited wealth and sense gratification, and therefore he's dangerous. Just like there was a famous singer, Donovan, which you probably never heard of it, he's 1960s. And he was English, just like the Beatles. He was friends with the Beatles. He came to see Prabhupada in London with his girlfriend. And as soon as Prabhupada started to preach, Donovan seemed to be quite receptive, but his girlfriend said, "I have a headache, we have to leave." Literally, she took him by the arm and dragged him out of there. She realized that if Prabhupada preaches to Donovan and he listens, she's going to lose him. So let me drag him out of here before it's too late. So it's not that everyone is looking for a way out of the material world. People are looking for the way how they can get more absorbed in the material existence. They want more and more of it, not less. Therefore, even to come to the platform in the beginning stages of advancing out of the modes of material nature, called karma yoga, it means that theoretically we accept at least that there's a God. Now this is too much for most people. And if they believe in a God, it's not a God who's controlling everything, who owns everything. It's a God who's love. There was one documentary film made about interviewing all the religious people and the heads of different religious institutions. And they interviewed, what is your understanding of God? What is God like? They said, oh, God is love. Oh, God is peace. Or God is a dove on, flying in the sky. They also interviewed the devotees, but they didn't put what the devotees said because they didn't want to spoil the interview. So they want to keep God far away, some kind of impersonal love, whatever, the power, the force. People can appreciate the force. But as far as a person who's actually controlling every atom in this universe, that's too much. I mean, you're really exaggerating. There can't be such a person. And if there is, he's the force. And you're also the force. You haven't developed your force yet. Therefore, to accept that there's a God and it's not us, well, that's really a great advancement, that we actually have an obligation to work but without attachment, to do our duty without attachment. Attachment means, well, we have this idea that right now God has so many things and I have so many things, and if I work, then I can get some of God things. In other words, material world is the place of a bunch of thieves trying to steal from God. Because people don't know if there's a God, it's like if you walk into a grocery store and there's no one there. You came quite early. You don't see any of the people who are working there. And you start putting everything in your basket and just walk out of the store. And you've done that? and then the police stop you in the parking lot and say, what are you doing? I said, well, I went to the store. I looked around, there was no one there except for me, so I figured it must be mine. It's all mine. There's no one else to claim it, so I might as well take it. Or as they say in English, finders, keepers, losers, weepers. I found it, it's mine. I mean, that's the basic mentality of the whole society. They look through a telescope and they see a planet and they say, they name it after themselves, just because they looked at it. Could you imagine it if someone walked down the street and you looked at them and said, Govinda Dasi? What do you mean Govinda Dasi? That's my name. You're Govinda Dasi. I saw you. You're mine. Just because I looked at you. So this is a mentality, we're born with that mentality. You put your fingers on the hand of a little baby, immediately it closes. You try to pull it out, won't let go. It's mine now. It's my finger. So that's why in book distribution, the first thing you do is put the book in people's hands and think, oh, it's mine. You say, we're distributing these books today. Oh, really? Thank you. It costs money. No. They give it back. But I hate this guy. He took my book. Anything we touch becomes ours. So the idea that it doesn't become ours, it's not, and even the things I thought I worked so hard for, I struggled so hard, My sweat is still on it. And now you tell me it's not mine? What kind of horrible philosophy is this? They don't mind, they have to give up meat eating, gambling, even illicit sex and intoxic, but give up proprietorship over my possession. Oh my God, this is too much. This is fanaticism. Believe in some God, a real God. They don't mind an imaginary God that you worship because, you have to take shelter of something. So you invent a God, and then you take shelter of it just to make you feel good, the opiate of the masses. But you actually believe that there's a real God. This is too much. You're a danger to society. You're going to destroy the gross national product. Therefore, the first teaching is not Krishna dancing with the gopis in Bhagavad Gita. The first teaching is karma yoga. After Krishna summarizes the Gita, and most people don't know, first of all, if people can get through the first chapter without some explanation, they're doing quite well. Yudana, Uttamojas Saviryavan, Brujit Kontibojas Shaivas. They told me this would help me with my engineering degree. What does Udamanas have to do with this? Who is this Udamanas? Yutsavaha. What is this? I thought this was a love story. This is on a battlefield. You said this will make me peaceful. But how am I going to become peaceful? Reading about people talking about a battle. They're going to kill each other. So if they get through the first chapter, Arjuna throws his bow and arrow down. He won't fight. Well, this sounds pretty good. He must be nonviolent. So we're getting somewhere. Something interesting in here. And then the second chapter, the summary of the Gita is about Vihaya Kamayak Sarvam Pumam Charti Nispriya Niramo Nirahankara Sashanti Madhugachiti. I mean, this is really fanaticism. One who gives up all desires for sense gratification, who lives free from desires, is devoid, who gives up all sense proprietorship, is free from false ego, he alone can attain real peace. Well, this philosophy is not making me peaceful. I'm not going to, what do they want me to do? Stop breathing? What do you mean? No sense gratification. I can't eat. No more sleeping. I have to give up my love for my dog? No, this is too much. My wife is easy, but my dog, this is too much. She's the only one who really loves me. I come home and she licks me. Everyone else ignores me. Now they're going to tell me to give up breathing. Live free from all these things. Yeah, of course I'll be free from them. I'll be dead. I follow their instructions. I'll be in my fairy body soon. I follow them. So people can't understand even the third chapter of Bhagavad Gita, what to speak of the first and second. Therefore, Vyasadeva, he got up to the fourth chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Vyasadeva, transcendental knowledge. But only part of the fourth chapter. Shreyan Gyanam. Shreyan Drava Yamadhyadyash Jnana Jagna Parantapa. That's all right. Jnanam Jagna Parantapa was right. Shreyan Sarva Karma Kalam Bharata Jnana Parisamapyate. O Chancellor of the enemies, the sacrifice performed in knowledge is better than mere sacrifice of material possessions. After all, son of Pritha, all sacrifices of work culminate in transcendental knowledge. So there's two types of knowledge. There's spiritual knowledge and there's transcendental knowledge, or there's material knowledge. Material knowledge will include getting out of the material concept of life. That's also material knowledge. Even the Buddhists or the impersonalists, their knowledge is not spiritual knowledge, it's mundane. to find out who we're not doesn't mean we know who we are. So the endeavor of the Varnashram system, although it has Vishnu as the object of sacrifice, but generally most people take to the Varnashram system to get out of their miseries. Find comfort in the material world means to get out of misery. Just like for those of us who can't sit on the floor, we're provided a chair to get out of our misery. And when we can't sit in the chair anymore, we'll be on our bed, but they'll provide a video camera for us to watch. Because the material world means misery, and our so-called comforts are just attempts to lessen the misery. But it doesn't mean we find out who we are by lessening our misery. Even when we get out of the bodily concept, when one is advanced enough, he realizes there's no way I can get out of my misery as long as I'm conscious of what's going on in this material world. So they try to detach themselves and become unconscious, like in sleep. People wake up and they say, "How are you? How was your rest?" "Oh, I was great," which means you didn't feel anything. You're unconscious. So we think, "Well, that was fantastic." But is that how you want to spend eternity, unconscious? But don't worry, very shortly, we'll be able to take a nice rest. 311 trillion, 40 billion years in the body of Brahma, and of Mahavishnu. So if you feel tired now, don't worry. Soon you'll get a good nap. 311 trillion, 40 billion years. But do you think we'll wake up out of the nap and think, well, now I'm in ecstasy because I got a good night's sleep, the night of Mahavishnu, one breath of Mahavishnu? No, it's simply less miserable. But even we're in eternity, there's no real positive happiness. There's just the happiness of realizing that we're eternal, which is a kind of much happier than we are now. Because right now we're spending our whole time fighting against our temporary, material nature that's bringing us to the point of death. So we're fighting it. That's why even the people who claim, "I'm not afraid of death," if you observe them carefully, when they cross the street, they look both ways. If they're not afraid of death, why don't they just walk blindly across the street? No fear, no worries. I'm dead. No, everyone's afraid of death. If you're not afraid of death, then you're crazy. Now, the only person who's not afraid of death is either people who are crazy or the people who are self-realized. And most of us are in between. So it's good to be a little healthy. Fear of death is good. So we can get out of the process of death. Otherwise, why would we get out of it? I'm not afraid. Let whatever happens will happen. I just go with the flow. Through 8,400,000 species of life, I just flow on. Pig, dog, worm, it's all this, whatever. It's experience. It's all going towards the same. We're all going to the same goal. Whether I become a pig or a worm or a germ, it's just part of the process, just flowing on. So Vyasadeva, he had knowledge, at least he was credited with knowledge, but his knowledge was more or less mundane, because that's what the Vedas are. To get us out of the material concept of life is also coming to the platform of neutrality, eternity, is not really so exciting. So Vyasadeva was expecting a little bit more. It's like going to a big feast. You think there's going to be a big feast, and they have 2 potatoes, raw potatoes for you to eat. You thought you were looking forward to something, you were anxious to get it, and you give 2 raw potatoes, they're not even cooked. And the person who's serving it says, you don't like it? I'll take them back. Don't complain. So Vyasadeva spent so many, probably years and years, compiling the Vedas, trying to get out of the material concept of life. He was out of the material concept of life, but it wasn't very exciting. It wasn't suffering, but it wasn't exciting either. There's nothing to look forward to. You get up every day. It's like they used to have on television a long time ago, right after the dinosaurs left the planet. They had these, there was only, like when I grew up, there were 3 television channels. Could you imagine how barbaric this situation was? How primitive? And one of them never worked. Technology wasn't very advanced. And the other 2, when they signed off at night, because that wasn't 24 hours a day television, it was up until like 10 o'clock in the evening, or maybe a little later, then you just see this white light, the white light. Now, I don't know anyone who stayed up to watch the white light. Although probably they would have gotten a better rest if they would have watched the white light, or it was actually a yellowish white. Other than the crazy, terrible television programs they were watching, they probably would have had a more peaceful sleep. But in any case, no one ever stayed up. There was no ratings for the white light, although it was on for like from 11 o'clock at night to like 5 o'clock in the morning. It was the biggest show that they had, the longest one, but never watched it. So similarly to merge in Brahman, sit there, waiting for something to happen. It never happens. You're just there. You're not asleep. You're not really awake. You're kind of like in between, just looking at the light. After a while, you think, my God, I worked for billions of years to get here. I think I'll go back. Must be, find out who won the football game at least. Something's going on there. So he's sitting there, but now Narada Muni will give him another clue. Beyond karma yoga, knowing that everything here doesn't belong to me, and I shouldn't get it. As soon as I get attached to something, I'll get into trouble. I'll be covered by illusion and suffer. To transcendental knowledge, actually I'm a spiritual being. I can actually realize myself. That I don't have to worry about becoming attached or detached from the material world because I'm eternal. I can actually live in eternality, in a different place, in a different state. Consciousness, a different place, ultimately. Transcendental knowledge. But then there must be something more than that, because I'm not really happy. I'm peaceful, you could say. But even people become peaceful in this world, then they go crazy. They're too peaceful, so they do something crazy to make it exciting. Life more exciting. So then there is bhakti. So Narada Muni, he's coming, he's the one who distributes bhakti in the universe. So he's coming, he says, yes, you can do your activities dutifully, you can do them in the knowledge that you're a spiritual being, and you can do them lovingly also for the supreme lovable person. And then you'll be happy. Therefore, Prabhupada would like Krishna book. He put the Krishna book out, Krishna's pastimes, and he wrote in the introduction that there are 3 kinds of people who read the Krishna book. One of them is the materialist, who's attached to sense gratification. But he'll also derive benefit from reading the Krishna book, because it appears to be a young boy and a young girl love affair. And they think, well, this is good, something interesting. But if they hear it with the right sauce, with the right attitude, then they'll actually get spiritual benefit from it. Because whether it's the material world or the spiritual world, everyone is looking for a love affair. Now we've had a love affair with material bodies since time immemorial, and they've always disappointed us. They never ended happily ever after. Only in the movies the love affairs end happily ever after. They just end unhappily ever after. But that's what we're looking for. Is there a romance that goes on forever? Only gets better, more romantic, more loving, more affectionate, that's what everyone's looking for. So the Krishna book is like that. So the materialists will become attracted. Those who are on the Madhyamadikari, those in the intermediate platform, the Madhyamadikari platform, when they hear the Krishna book, they'll experience it. Therefore it becomes enlivening and enlightening. They're able to visualize the pastimes and feel them, experience them. And those who are liberated souls on the topmost platform, they actually exist in the Krishna book when they read it. They're actually there. The topmost will be there in their spiritual bodies participating, or at least observing actually the transcendental path as they're actually going on. Not just visualizing or experiencing, but will actually be there in the pastimes. In any case, that's what everyone's looking for, and that's in this literature, Srimad Bhagavatam. Although it appears to be philosophical in some places, it may appear to be different things to different people, but ultimately it's aiming towards establishing a loving experience with Krishna. That's all it's in the Srimad Bhagavatam. It's not about karma yoga or jnana yoga or ashtanga yoga. It's about loving relationships between Krishna and his devotees. But we have to be prepared for it, and therefore Srila Vyasadeva had prepared himself. He was a liberated soul. He was prepared to hear from Narada Muni. And we also have to prepare ourselves to hear from Narada Muni. And it may take reading these 9 cantos over and over again, all this Srimad Bhagavatam. And then one day we'll come back to the first canto again, and we'll prepare to actually hear from Narada Muni about how to engage in loving service to Krishna and his devotees. So I'll stop there. Khwala, any questions?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you for your nice and instructive lecture, and this is everything I would like to say.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Yes.
Hare Krishna. You mentioned that Madhyamadikari is experiencing Krishna book, and which other qualifications does he have, and how to uplift ourselves on this platform?
We can do it immediately. The art of Krishna consciousness, Prabhupada writes in the Krishna book, is the art of focusing one's attention and then giving one's love to Krishna. So if we hear anything, even what to speak of the 10th canto, any one of these things, the secret is to read something, whether it be the Sanskrit, well, actually it's probably the Sanskrit and translation go together, just like this verse. Sutravacha atmana, Atmaramaschamunayo nigranta yadur krame, korvant yahaitu bhaktim, itam Buddha Gano Hari. So, then in the translation, all different varieties of Atmaramas, those who take pleasure in the spirit self. So because this is transcendental literature, if we pay attention to it and actually hear it again and again until it becomes, we remember it, because there are probably better passages, better verses than this, then the result is we'll actually start feeling ourselves transcendental. Now you can read any other book, you won't feel that way. We may feel we can enter into other literature, but other literature will just enter into another mundane platform. But this literature, when we enter into it, we actually enter into the spiritual platform. So it's a question of just hearing it over and over again until it becomes part of us. We remember it. And then maybe eventually we can actually see it. And then we become determined to act according to it. And that way we enter deeper and deeper into it. It becomes us. We actually enter into it, actually. We enter into it.
Thank you.
Anything else? Wala Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Gaur Premanande.